What up, Challenge fans? This is Final Alliance Podcast, and I just finished watching episode 10 of the Challenge World Championship titled Cruel World. My buddy Jay had something come up last minute, so just me this week. We're going to go through the episode, do the best that I can, and yeah, let's get after it. One thing that I want to put out there just right now, starting out, you know, we're episode 10. We are 2 episodes from the final. We have 6 teams left. I like to put a poll out on our Instagram, which is Final Alliance. The day after the episode airs, every week, give this a letter grade, A, C, or F. And this episode was the lowest rated by my followers, our followers, this whole time. And I tend to agree. This one I rated a C. We're close to the final. We're almost there. But I think being that now we don't have Kellyanne anymore, some of the strategy stuff was frustrating. Yeah, it wasn't quite an A this episode, but let me know what you think if you disagree, because I would be curious to hear. So episode starts. Kiki and Darrell just won, which is great. Love that team. Probably my favorite team left at this point. But we're not done with the way the alliances are working out. Unless they win, they're going to go in. Period. That's just what's going to happen, because the way that Tori and Jordan and Casey have been working together. You've also got Sarah working with Yes and Emily. They just don't have the numbers. They are likely going to go in. That's just the reality of the situation, unless they win. Sarah, Danny, Emily, and Yes are strategizing, deciding, basically last week, Sarah and Danny promised their partners that if they did what they said last week, which was voting in, I believe it was Kellyanne, then this week they would vote in Emily and Yes. Obviously, Sarah doesn't want to do that. She trusts Emily and Yes way more. So Emily and Yes absolutely need to win. We go into the challenge. We got TJ looking really nice in a blue short sleeve button-up shirt. Not my favorite of his looks, but better than some of them that we've seen. He actually wore another blue shirt all later in the episode as well. So it was like very good for his eyes this week. Very, very nice blue for TJ. This challenge is called Points Break, and it's a swimming challenge. So with what we've seen so far, they're pointing us in the direction of Emily and Yes, and it's a swimming challenge. So we're like, okay, this could be really good for our quote unquote underdogs. The challenge is called Points Break. It's a swimming challenge, which that's great for Emily. Looking like maybe that's going to work out in the favor of Sarah and Danny, which we have, they've kind of been leading us this episode. Swim to 6 platforms. Each time you get a puzzle piece, you're starting at the platforms furthest away and then working your way to the platforms closer. They don't specifically say that in the directions, but that's what everybody did. So I think that was the rule. It just didn't make it to air. Swim to those 6 platforms, get your puzzle pieces, bring them back one at a time. You have a designated color for your team. Put the pieces together. And then there is a question that you have to answer. The kicker with that is you only get 3 checks on answering this question. Oh, wait, and TJ tells us you're tethered to your partner. So if you have a strong swimmer and a not very strong swimmer, this could be a problem. Or teams that don't get along, this could be a problem. We don't really see a whole lot of that, but we do see it with one team in particular. One thing I did notice as well is typically with the life vests, it seems everyone has to wear a life vest. And I first noticed that Emily wasn't wearing one. And I'm like, they probably just allow her to not wear a vest because she's essentially like tested out of this by being an Olympic swimmer. And then I noticed that there are multiple teams that don't have people in life vests. So they had an option to wear the life jacket or not, which I thought was, refreshing. I would wear a life vest though, because I'm not the best swimmer, but that's just me. I know a lot of swimmers would prefer not to have the vest because it slows you down. Jordan and Kaz are not working well together. Jordan, first of all, I gotta give it to him. He is swimming phenomenal. So is Kaz. They are, keeping up with Emily, which, this woman is an Olympic gold medalist. As if we haven't said it a million times. So to keep up with her is incredible. And the strategy that he used to be right behind her to kind of use her power, brilliant. What I didn't like was after they'd finished the first one, Kaz is kind of trying to decide if she should get her life jacket or not. And Jordan says, I don't know, do you need it? And he doesn't really give her a chance, even a half a second to decide. And he starts running. Well, they're tethered together. So then she's like, and then goes and gets the life jacket, and he gets frustrated with her. I was impressed with her for not saying anything because I don't love to be yelled at, specifically by a partner of the opposite sex. That's not motivating to me. If you ever have read anything about coaching female athletes, we don't in general respond well to that. So I was very, very, very impressed that Kaz just kind of took it and moved on. Wasn't worth it for her at that point to say anything. Then, because Jordan was going so fast, I don't know if he saw the color wrong or if he was going so fast that he didn't pay attention. He ended up grabbing the wrong color triangle, which was Kiki and Darrell's. Because of that, they had a penalty. They had to swim out one more time. Kiki and Darrell love that team. Kiki's kind of struggling with her asthma, and she's getting worked up and frustrated just because of the asthma and because of all of it. Darrell is being supportive. They're working together. Obviously, Jordan and Kaz accidentally pulling their puzzle piece and giving it to them works in their favor. Cool. We then see Theo and Sarah kind of struggling because Theo is not a strong swimmer. Sarah is. Being tethered to each other is a struggle because of this. Casey and Troy work phenomenal together. This is a team that, we talked about it a couple weeks ago. We weren't really sure about, other than they both have very kind of chill personalities. Wow, did they work well together. And after this episode, I think they're strong contenders for winning. Just good attitude, no quit. Love it. In the interview, I really appreciated that Jordan admitted that he messed up. Kaz is like, oh, look, Jordan Wisely, he messed up. He made a mistake. And, he eats crow and he says that he messed up. And I love that about him. That's something that I've noticed from him many, many times, that, he might be a jerk sometimes, but he will admit when he is wrong and when he makes a mistake. And he did, which was great. When we get to the point where everyone has finished the puzzle, now it is the question. The question had to do with how many triangles are there. I think every team struggled with this. And I'm not saying struggled, but took more than one guess. And there was a maximum of 3 checks. Emily and Yes get it first. They win. Jordan and Kaz were, from what we saw in the edit, maybe 2 seconds behind them. So, of course, Jordan is kicking himself frustrated. All the other teams seem to get it, but Darrell and Kiki end up in last place, which we knew they were going to go in if they didn't win, but it still really just sucked. I was sad to see that was going to happen. I did read on Twitter that Jordan ended up giving Tori the answer and Emily gave Sarah the answer. And that's actually how Darrell and Kiki lost. It was confirmed allegedly by a cast member. I don't know which one, but J Challenge 1 is the one that said that. So, I'm not surprised if that's what happened. So Jordan and Casey are having this conversation following the daily, and he mentions what he thinks the difference between the MVPs and the why do I keep forgetting the name? Legends. MVPs in the Legends is the Legends have honor, which I thought that was a little bit much. I get where he's going with it, but I mean, it was a little bit much. I did like that we're seeing a conversation between Jordan and Casey, because typically we don't see those two strategizing without Tori around. So I was intrigued a little bit by this. Jordan says he's going to essentially save Casey by voting himself in. That way, she's safe. Casey's then really cute in her interview, and she says, Jordan sometimes does a lot of this, and she makes like the hand puppet, like, making like the talking thing. And she's like, at the end of the day, here's the deal. I know that he would save Tori, but if it was between Tori and me, he wouldn't save me. And I think she's absolutely right. So at that point, I'm kind of intrigued, and I'm like, okay, what's going to happen here? And then we see Tori then talking to Danny, saying she wants them to nominate themselves. And I'm like, what is happening? Why are these people wanting to nominate themselves? And Danny, like a normal person in these games, says, no, why would we nominate ourselves? We are as safe as we could possibly be without being like the champ or the winners. Why would we put ourselves in jeopardy? That doesn't make sense. And Tori, again, I guess it's about the honor, says, she wants to be proud of how she plays every game. And she feels like she's been, had the easy route compared to her allies, and wants to go in. Which I don't know. At this point, I am just wondering what the heck is going on. Danny makes a really good point. He says, and granted, the place where Danny is in his life and where Tori is in her life are different. It's not that one is better or whatever than the other, but they're in different places in their life. And Danny says, look, I'm here to win the money. I'm away from my wife and my daughter right now, and I'm missing out on family time. And it makes it worth it if I come back with, here's Zoe, here's your college fund. That makes so much sense to me. And granted, obviously, Tori's there to work and make money too, but that just really resonated with me. And it's like, yeah, exactly. You're here to win the money, not help out your friends. And why are we going to put ourselves in jeopardy of potentially going home? I think anybody who's ever been on the challenge, I would think, would agree that putting yourself into an elimination is a risk. And we're days away from the final. So at this point, I'm not super into the way this is going. Then we have this conversation between Kaz and Jordan, and I did not care for this conversation at all. Theo's there as well, kind of just listening, not weighing in too much. And Jordan says, we're going to go in. Kaz, same thing as Danny. Why would we put ourselves in? It's one thing if we get actually voted in, but to nominate ourselves makes no sense. I don't want that. Jordan is very adamant about it, very stubborn. He's not going to change his mind. And I feel for Kaz. I would be extremely frustrated if that was my partner and he wasn't, he used the word impasse. We're at an impasse. And really that's where they were, because yeah, he wasn't down to listen to anything for her. And this isn't a fresh meat situation. Yes, she hasn't done as many challenges as him. Yes, he is a champion. Obviously, he knows what he's doing. But to not even give her, not even like entertain her opinion, that just sucks. And I felt for her a lot. Like, I think back to like how great of a partner Wes was to Zara. Wes would have at the very least listened to her point and then in a kind way explained why he wanted them to do what they were going to do. And granted, these are different people, obviously. People think differently, feel differently, whatever. But I didn't love this conversation. And I really do like Jordan, but I wasn't fond of this interaction. We go into the deliberation and it's a stalemate. So that means it is tied between Casey and Troy going in, Danny and Tori going in, and Kaz and Jordan. Sarah and Theo are are off the table, which I mean, realistically, yes, and Emily would save for them anyway, of course. So at that point now it is Yes and Emily's. It's going to be their choice who's going to go in against Kiki and Darrell. We do then see a clip from right before Deliberation where Jordan and Kaz are having a conversation with Yes and Emily. And what they say is, look, if we choose not to be first place, like if we throw the next daily so that we do not win, will you not vote for us to go into this elimination? They say yes. Okay. I thought that was kind of ballsy for them to take that deal, being Yes and Emily, because this is a really good team. And these deals for later make me nervous. But at the same time, if they were wanting to put Jordan and Kaz in against Kiki and Darrell, in most eliminations, in my opinion, Jordan and Kaz would come back. So at this point, might as well take the deal. Hopefully they're going to follow through and do their part of it, but it is what it is. We'll take the deal. We'll see what happens. So that makes Jordan's situation in the conversation make a little bit more sense to me. I still just don't love how he spoke to her. The elimination is called Breakthrough. They do decide to vote in Casey and Troy, which is not a surprise because Emily is like, yeah, I'm gonna vote in the Australians. They put a target on their back, whatever. They have to swing through bricks that have a puzzle or an equation on them, and then solve the math equation, which opens a lock. Then they swing individually through some drywall. Both of them get through that. And then there's a puzzle that has the Challenge World Championship logo on it. And it's whoever finishes it first. Did I like this elimination? A little bit. I mean, I didn't hate it. It kept me guessing. I do love how puzzles, things like this, are equalizers. That's always something I've enjoyed. I thought either team could have taken this, but it wasn't my favorite that I've ever seen. I was obviously, I was rooting hard for Kiki and Darrell, wanting them to win. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for them. Casey and Troy get the W. A couple things from that. The best part about it. So Troy and Casey are kind of petite people in comparison to some of their castmates. So when Troy is going through the drywall for the first time, he's got the rope and he's gonna go through it, and it's just like thud. Just nothing. Makes any kind of traction on the drywall. And obviously he wasn't hurt, so it's okay to laugh. I found that very amusing. And then Casey goes through, same thing. And then, as they work through, they are able to get through the drywall and solve the puzzle. Emily had a great line during that. She said, "Who tested this?" And even got TJ laughing, which I thought was great. I love when people can get TJ to genuinely laugh. I will say that Casey and Troy are a force to be reckoned with. I love the way that they work together. I'm loving that I'm seeing Casey kind of outside of her shell a little bit more this episode. And I think they just work really well together. I think that this was more proof that they're going to do well in the final. If Jay was here, I would have to tell him that I counted 4 Let's Go's by Casey this episode, 3 in the, all in the elimination, 1 right before and 3 afterwards. So let's go, Casey. Darrell and Kiki, I'm so sad to see them go. They have been just so entertaining this season. I've loved them so much. Kiki, I hope that they call you back. I want her on the flagship or any version of the challenge that she is willing to do. I have really, really enjoyed her. She's a badass. She's a Barbie beast. So much fun to watch. I loved her dynamic with Darrell. I loved her joint interviews with Darrell. Obviously, we all know how much I love Darrell. I'm going to miss him as well. I love to root for him. He kills it in the interviews as well. Without them next week, I mean, granted, fortunately, we only have 2 episodes left, because if we had like 6, I'd be like, I don't even know, because like my people that I really enjoy as far as entertainment wise are gone. But only 2 weeks left, so I think I can power through it. Kiki made a cute joke. She said, this season I've had 3 panic attacks, 2 asthma attacks, and 9 nosebleeds, which was adorable. And then next week, the winners of the daily are going to get a ticket to the final, and then it looks like it's going to start the final. So it'll be like an episode and a half of the final. So I'm very curious to see if Jordan and Kaz are going to follow through with their plan, which is that they're not going to win the daily, even though, so TJ tells us that the people who win get a ticket to the final. To, the deal that they made with Yes and Emily. So I'm very curious to see. There's 5 teams left. 4 teams are going to be going to the final. At this point, the team that I think is going to win, I still think Jordan and Kaz have it, but I worry about their team dynamic. I'm hopeful that the 2 of them can have a conversation and get on the same page during this short period of time, these couple of days leading up to the final. I feel like they will. I feel like Jordan is smart enough to know that he needs to communicate well with his partner, and they need to be on the same page. So I'm hopeful for them for that. If not, that might be what costs them the final. I also think with Casey and Troy, those 2 have no quit. They have such a good attitude, very agile, good endurance. I think they have a chance at winning as well. If I were a betting person, I love Sarah. I love Theo, but for some reason, something in my head is telling me that they're going to be the team that does not make it to the final. But time will tell. We'll see next week. As far as categories go, who won the episode, I have to give it to Casey and Troy. As I said several times, their teamwork was beautiful. I'm loving seeing them together. I'm loving seeing Casey coming out of her shell. In the last couple episodes, we've gotten to see a little bit more of her personality than we've seen on the flagship. And I don't know if that's because there's such a smaller cast or Nani's not there. I don't know, but I'm enjoying kind of getting to know Casey again. Who lost the episode? I'm sorry, Jordan. I have to give it to you. Obviously, you made that big boo-boo in the daily where you grabbed the wrong puzzle piece, and that's what cost you the win, because you're as a team, you swam beautifully and you were seconds away from winning. Had you not have had to redo that lap, obviously you would have won. Also did not love that interaction with you and Kaz, but hat tip on the strategy with Emily and Yes in regards to the voting. Best line gotta be Emily saying, "Who tested this?" when Troy couldn't get through the wall, because that was just chef's kiss, beautiful. As far as tea goes, I just have a few things. So, Jody was just on Most Likely To's podcast last week with Paige, and she said kind of similar things to what Sarah had said on Chillin' with Dylan's podcast that got some press in regards to Bananas wasn't like the nicest person when they were on the show this season. So Jody had said, she'd only met him maybe once they did a season together, and she was like looking forward to like getting to know him, and she followed him on social media and thought he was like really funny and great, and just didn't have the best interactions with him. So I was kind of surprised by that, especially, and I mean, coming from Jody, I absolutely believe it. I don't think that there's any dishonesty in that. So that was curious. That made me curious in regards to that. Some pivoting to some kind of sadder news. Robin from Real World San Diego was arrested again. We've talked about it before. She is struggling with homelessness and drug addiction in Florida. She was arrested because she violated a protective order from her family. She had gone to their house and, they called the cops on her. What I did not like about this, one, obviously the obvious, we are, and I can speak for Jay on this, thinking about her, praying for her. Addiction is no joke. I really hope she gets some help. I hope people in the MTV community, challenge community, can help her get better. I hope she can decide she wants to get better. But what the second thing I didn't like is every article that I saw in regards to this, it completely buried the lead. Like what she actually did to get arrested was like tiny at the bottom. Okay, you went to your family's house during, like, who had a protections order. That's really not that big of a deal. But what they said was, you will not believe what she looks like. She's almost unrecognizable. Very clickbaity. And I get it. There's companies that's how they make their money, is how many clicks they get, whatever. But I hate that, like, here's the serious issue, addiction. And instead of highlighting that, they're talking about what she looks like. And granted, none of us have really seen her in like 10 years because she hasn't been doing the show. So, people age in 10 years. Obviously, substance abuse is going to advance that a little bit. She was not unrecognizable. Like, let's get it together. But yeah, I don't like that that's what this was about. That all the articles were about what she looked like. That's just, come on. She's already struggling with homelessness and addiction, and now we're going to talk about how she looks like, quote unquote, old. Like, I feel like we need to be better than that. That's just me. That's my opinion. So thinking about her, hoping good things are around the corner for her. There's a lot of, so Challenge USA season 2 is filming right now. There are a lot of different spoilers out there. I'm trying to avoid them like the plague, but there is one thing that I saw in regards to the format of the show that I do want to share. So if you don't want to hear that, just mute me for the next 30 seconds. And so I'm going to share that real quick. It is a team format. So there are 3 teams, and each team has 2 to 3, maybe even 4 MTV challengers on it. And then the rest of the team is filled with, people from Survivor and Big Brother, Amazing Race. So I really like that idea that it's 3 teams. We haven't seen a team format in a while. So I'm excited about that. It's probably a 10 or 12 episode season. So who knows if it'll stay a team format, but I like that they're starting with the 3 teams. I think 3 teams is always kind of an interesting dynamic as well, instead of just having 2. Curious to see how that all plays out. I would gather that will air after Big Brother, as it did last summer. So end of July to September. Also, Tina, who we love. I just adore her. She's so wonderful. Went live on her Instagram today with Veronica, just kind of hyping up All Stars 4. I am so excited for this season. I'm just so excited for it. Remember, we've talked about this, but and I also have a reel on our Instagram, Final Alliance, that has the cast on it. But just to kind of recap a couple of people that are going to be on it: Veronica, Rachel, Tina, Laurel, Leroy, Cam. Did I say Tony? I'm freaking excited. Brad. That's a wonderful cast. Anymore, All Stars has become my favorite of the challenge series. The flagship has gotten a little stale to me with the extremely long seasons, extremely long episodes, and people who are playing 4 games ahead of where they're at and not wanting to say people's names. There's not as much drama, fun. They do have the good music on the flagship, which I appreciate. And then a lot of this is just kind of like business. So I'm so happy All Stars 4 is going to be coming back probably here in a couple of weeks right after this season is over. Because it's fun. And we get to see people that we haven't seen in a long time. And I'm so freaking excited for it. So looking forward to All Stars 4 starting up here probably around the 1st of June. Well, I think that's all I got this week. I'm 38 weeks pregnant at this point, so might be an episode next week, might not. Just kind of decides on when baby decides to come. I'll post on our Twitter if we're not going to have an episode. Thanks for bearing with me all by myself tonight. Hopefully we could have Jay back because he always adds some fun pizzazz to the pod, and I miss my buddy when he's not here. Follow us on Twitter, Final Alliance 1, on Instagram, Final Alliance, on YouTube. We are Final Alliance Podcast. Please comment, subscribe. Love to hear what you have to say, even if you're calling my wonderful podcast partner a hick. I saw you last week saying that. That's not very nice. And on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast, we are Final Alliance Podcast. Thanks for watching.